The world watched with bated breath as Donald Trump, having returned to the White House, issued one of his boldest demands yet. An ultimatum that would reverberate across continents and set the stage for a new era of global confrontation. Trump declared that China must join the United States and the European Union in slashing Russian oil imports, aiming to choke off a key source of revenue for Moscow and force Beijing to pick a side in the escalating geopolitical standoff. Beijing's response was immediate and unyielding, an outright rejection that stunned Washington and sent shockwaves through diplomatic circles worldwide. The message from China was clear. It would not bow to American pressure, no matter how intense. This was more than a simple trade spat. It was a powerful declaration from China that it would not be dictated to by the U.S. or any other power. The stakes had never been higher, and the world was watching to see who would blink first. Trump's strategy, rooted in economic pressure and high-stakes ultimatums, met a leader in Xi Jinping who simply refused to play by those rules. Xi's calm, measured demeanor contrasted sharply with Trump's frustration, highlighting the deep divide between the two superpowers. Xi's refusal wasn't just about oil. It was a rejection of the very idea that America could set the terms of China's foreign or economic policy. For Xi, this was about sovereignty, dignity, and the right to chart China's own course on the world stage. The fallout was swift and dramatic. Trump now faced a dilemma: escalate the confrontation and risk plunging the world into economic war, or back down and risk appearing weak both at home and abroad. The pressure was mounting, and every move was being scrutinized. For China, this was a calculated and deliberate move, signaling to the world that it would defend its sovereignty at all costs and offer an alternative to the US-led global order. The message was unmistakable. China was ready to lead. The clash marks a historic turning point. China is no longer content to play a subordinate role in a system designed by the United States. Instead, it is stepping forward, determined to shape the rules and assert its influence. Xi's boldness signals the dawn of a new era, one where China asserts its power, challenges the old order, and reshapes the global balance, ushering in a future where the world's center of gravity may shift eastward. At the core of China's defiance on the global stage is its unwavering commitment to energy sovereignty. For China, energy is not just a commodity. It is a matter of national survival and strategic autonomy. The country's leaders view control over energy resources as essential to maintaining stability, economic growth, and security in an unpredictable world. As the world's largest oil importer, China's dependence on foreign energy makes it acutely aware of potential vulnerabilities. This is why Beijing considers control over its energy sources absolutely non-negotiable, a red line that cannot be crossed by outside powers. Any attempt by the U.S. to dictate or influence China's energy policy is seen as a direct threat to its national security and long-term interests. Chinese officials are vigilant, ensuring that critical infrastructure remains protected from foreign interference. By firmly rejecting Trump's demand to cut Russian oil imports, Beijing draws a clear and unmistakable red line. Its energy decisions are made solely to serve Chinese interests, not to accommodate American geopolitical strategy or pressure. Buying Russian oil is not just about fueling China's vast economy and supporting its industries. It is also a strategic move that strengthens China's energy security and reduces its exposure to Western sanctions or supply disruptions. This partnership with Moscow goes beyond economics. It cements a powerful alliance that counterbalances U.S. influence in the region and on the world stage. China's stance is about more than just oil. It's a broader push for economic independence, technological self-reliance, and the ability to resist U.S. pressure. The country's efforts to promote the yuan in global energy trade and reduce reliance on the U.S. dollar are key parts of this strategy. By encouraging de-dollarization and using the yuan for energy transactions, China further insulates itself from the reach of American sanctions and financial leverage, making its economy more resilient. Beijing's message to the world is clear and resolute. It will not sacrifice its security, autonomy, or future for the sake of U.S. approval or demands. China is determined to chart its own course. In doing so, China's defiance is inspiring other nations to consider their own paths, showing that alternatives to U.S. dominance are not only possible, but increasingly viable in a changing world. This standoff is just one move in a larger U.S.-China power struggle. The oil dispute is a proxy for a deeper rivalry over global influence and the rules of the 21st century. Trump's strategy aims to contain China and isolate Russia, reinforcing U.S. dominance. Xi's response is to build alliances and reduce dependence on the West, using the Russia partnership as a pillar. Neither side can afford to back down. Trump risks looking weak. Xi risks undermining his vision for China's rise. The outcome will shape whether the world remains U.S.-led or shifts toward a multipolar order. The U.S.-China clash is also a battle of leadership styles. Trump's demand for quick wins versus Xi's long-term patience. Trump's tactics, public threats and ultimatums, seek immediate results and headlines. Xi, in contrast, absorbs pressure and responds with calculated moves focused on China's long-term interests. His rejection of Trump's deal was deliberate, not impulsive, reflecting a strategy of enduring short-term pain for future gain. Trump's approach works on weaker rivals, but China's resolve blunts his pressure. Xi's patience allows China to weather storms, adapt, and wait for better opportunities. In this dispute, Trump's fury met a quiet, firm no, leaving him with few good options. Xi emerges stronger, defending China's interests without escalation. U.S. sanctions have long been a powerful tool, but China's defiance exposes their limits. As China builds alternatives to the U.S.-led financial system, sanctions lose their sting. Beijing's trade with Russia and others shows that it's possible to bypass American pressure. Overuse of sanctions has also alienated U.S. allies, who tire of collateral damage to their own economies. China's resistance offers a rallying point for nations seeking independence from Washington's dictates. The Trump administration faces a dilemma: escalate and risk global economic chaos, or do nothing and appear powerless. The era of unilateral U.S. economic dominance is fading, and Washington must adapt to a new reality. The escalating standoff between the U.S. and China is sending powerful shockwaves through the global economy, shaking financial markets and testing the strength of international alliances like never before. Investors and governments alike are scrambling to adapt to the rapidly shifting landscape as uncertainty becomes the new normal. China's continued imports of Russian oil are helping to stabilize global energy prices in the short term, but at the same time, they inject a new level of volatility and risk into already fragile energy markets. This move complicates efforts by Western nations to isolate Russia and adds layers of unpredictability to global supply chains. U.S. allies such as Germany and Japan now find themselves in a difficult position, caught between their deep economic ties to China and their long-standing security commitments to Washington. These countries are forced to navigate a delicate balancing act, weighing national interests against alliance obligations. Trump's uncompromising with us or against us stance is putting unprecedented strain on traditional alliances, pushing some countries to reconsider their foreign policies and move toward greater independence in both economic and diplomatic spheres. For many nations in the global South, China's bold defiance of U.S. pressure presents an appealing alternative to the traditional U.S.-led development model. Chinese investment and infrastructure projects offer new opportunities, shifting the balance of influence in regions long dominated by Western powers. The intensifying rivalry between these superpowers is accelerating the fragmentation of the world into competing economic and political blocs, with countries increasingly forced to choose sides or carve out their own paths. The risk is clear: a split global economy where separate supply chains, divergent standards, and incompatible financial systems threaten to replace the interconnected world we once knew. This process of decoupling threatens not only global growth and innovation, but also the stability that has underpinned decades of prosperity. Businesses, researchers, and workers everywhere are feeling the strain as opportunities shrink and uncertainty grows. The ongoing oil dispute stands as a stark warning sign, a symbol of a more divided, contentious, and unpredictable global future that may lie ahead if these trends continue unchecked. The U.S.-China rivalry signals the end of uncontested American dominance. The future is likely one of persistent, high-stakes competition, not cooperation. Trump will seek new ways to pressure China. Beijing will double down on self-reliance and global partnerships. The world is drifting toward two parallel systems, one U.S.-led, one China-centered. Full decoupling is unlikely, but deepening division is already underway. Nations and companies must navigate these rival spheres, raising costs and complexity. The choices made now will shape the global order for decades, between dangerous division or managed competition. The Trump-Xi clash is just the beginning of a new era in world affairs.